News, our Tom Homan confirming Immigration and Customs Enforcement has plans for the Twin Cities of Minnesota. The expected crackdown following the unraveling of a massive Somali-perpetrated welfare fraud scheme, which was later elevated to national attention by President Trump. Now, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey calling ICE un-American and proclaiming he will not cooperate with federal agents, partially delivering his remarks in a foreign tongue.
But we need to also be demanding better from an administration who is intent on targeting people and committing so much time, energy, and money to terrorizing certain groups within our community. That's not American. That's not what we are about. And we're going to do right by every single person in our cities. And so, to our Somali community, Daman Shabka, Somalied Kunul.
English, sir. Can we just speak English here? Thank you very much. Joining me now is Norm Coleman, a former Republican senator from Minnesota, and Peter Lumaj, an immigration attorney. Governor, to you first. I mean, what the heck is going on here in Minnesota?
First of all, the first priority of government is public safety. I was a mayor for 8 years before I was a senator, and keeping the streets safe, ridding the community of crime. What we had in Minnesota is a massive multi-billion-dollar fraud in which the politicians turned a blind eye. And in part, by the way, because the Somalis are part of the Democrat base, and Democrat Governor Tim Walz, who your viewers know well from his failed run for vice president, turned a blind eye to this. And it was the federal prosecutors, the Trump administration, has come in and kind of finally taken control. But a blind eye by the politicians, a blind eye by the media, a blind eye by community leaders, and massive multi-billion-dollar fraud that really the folks who were in charge should not be in charge. And there'll be an election next November, and I hope the people of Minnesota will kind of make the right choice.
Senator, real quick here, I'm just curious, why is it that you think these tens of thousands of Somalis were actually sent to Minnesota and specifically resettled in Minneapolis and St. Paul?
Well, I could give you two reasons. One, the good reason is that Minnesota, the home of the American Refugee Committee, has always been a home for refugees. We have a large Hmong population. There was a Laotian folks, fighters who fought with us during the Vietnam War. But on the other hand, I got to tell you, it's also because Minnesota is a very generous welfare state. And folks, they come here and they get benefits. And this governor has given to illegals, by the way, given driver's license, given college tuition. You get a pretty free ride. And so what's happened is that we've kind of welcomed all these folks into our state. And I'm all for immigrants. I'm all for, new blood in the country legally. But ultimately, this is one in which folks turned a blind eye when they shouldn't have. And the result was this massive fraud, which really crushes the taxpayers of Minnesota, who, by the way, are among the highest tax states in the nation. So this welfare state has come at great cost, not just for the crime that we're seeing now, but the cost each and every day that Minnesotans pay for a government that really has no checks, has no balances, has no fiscal responsibility.
Peter, your reaction to what Norm just said there?
Look, we have diluted the meaning of what it means to be an American. Years ago, when you wanted to come to the United States, you needed three things. First, you had to submit to background investigation. My family and I did it when we escaped communist Albania. Then you needed to be interviewed by the U.S. Embassy, someone from the U.S. Embassy, to make sure that you were fit to come to the United States to embrace the American way of life. And the third thing that you needed someone to sponsor you. All those three things under the Obama administration, and especially under the Biden administration, we did away with them. And coming to the United States is no longer that people would come here to embrace our way of life. They are coming here for the benefits that we are offering them. And anyone who disagrees with them, the liberals will try to beat us into this political submission that we dislike immigrants. If you come to the United States legally, I have no problems with anyone. My family and I, as I said, did it 37 years ago, and I'm happy we did it. But nowadays, everything has changed. And when the senator stated that if you move into certain states, you get more benefits as an illegal immigrant than you get as an American citizen. For example, in the state of Connecticut, if you live there as an illegal immigrant, you get in-state tuition, you get a driver's license, you have sanctuary cities, you have all the benefits that you need. My kids who were born and raised in this country wouldn't get those benefits. If my nieces and nephews decided to move from New York to Connecticut and attend UConn, University of Connecticut, being Americans, being born and raised here, our kids don't have. And we have to understand one thing. For the past 20 years or so, we have been bringing people to the United States who are not compatible with our values. You look at the Somali refugees, you look at the Muslim world, the Muslims that are coming to the United States. They are not willing to assimilate. They are not willing to embrace our values, Judeo-Christian values. They are not willing to respect the Constitution. These are people who will never assimilate into our way of life. And I think that we have to re-examine the entire way of the way we're bringing these people to the United States, because eventually we're going to pay a price, and we just did in Washington State.
All right, Senator, I want to play this audio. President Trump has a message for Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Let's take a listen to this.
These Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with... Go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution.
You know, Senator, this is a big problem, because we are bringing people in who, number one, really don't like us that much, and number two, they want to change our way of life. I mean, this is sort of unheard of when it comes to immigration over the generations.
So as I have to say, there are close to 100,000 Somalis in Minnesota. Not every one of them committed fraud. But by the way, of the 86 people that were charged in these crimes, almost every one of them, because 80 of them are Somali. And so in part, you had, again, what I said before, you have politicians, Governor Walz, who turned a blind eye to massive, massive fraud that was going on. And in part, I call this DEI fraud. They turned a blind eye because they didn't want to upset part of their political base. So you got to address that problem. I have to say about Ilhan, by the way, who came here, violating law in terms of she brought in was already married and then claimed to be married to her brother. So she violated bigamy laws, she violated marriage laws, she violated a whole range of things, and no one's ever said anything about that. So she should not be the prime example of what Somalis tout as great leadership in this country. Bottom line is that we really do have to do a better job of making sure that when folks come here, they assimilate. E pluribus unum. It's in our currency. It's in our dollar bill. It means out of many, one. And so if we can get out of many, one, that's a good thing for America. But if out of the many, it's separate, it's not part, it doesn't kind of come into our culture and adopt things that we think are important, then you have a problem. You have to figure out a way to deal with it.
And Peter, what happens to those immigrants who do not want to assimilate and they don't want to embrace our way of life? What do we do with those folks?
Look, I think it should be mandatory that you come to the United States. It should be mandatory that you learn the language, embrace the Judeo-Christian values that we have. It should be mandatory that you live your life the way the American people live it. When you look at the immigration that we had in the late 18th century, early 19th century, we brought in many, many millions of Europeans, but we had so many things in common with that culture. We were pretty much one and the same. What we're bringing to the United States right now is a culture that is just a matter of time that we're going to see a confrontation between the American culture and the culture that we are importing. This is happening all over Europe. They are destroying the European Union. They are destroying the Western Europe. Arnold 20 years ago said that great civilizations are not nurtured. They commit suicide. We are committing suicide by importing the third world into the United States. And Donald Trump, President Trump, is the only one who understands it right now, that unless we stand up to this evil ideology that is coming to the United States, our nation is in danger, and thank God that we have Donald Trump to fight for this against this evil ideology.
Yeah, amen to that. Norm, Peter, guys, we have to leave it there. Great to have you on Newsmax this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.